consult Alehotsky, co-founder and managing director of Renovate Technologies, about our upcoming topic. Maintaining dependencies like NuGet and npm packages, GitHub Actions, dependencies is fun, but if you feel that it would be even more fun, then you can automate it with a tool called Renovate. We will see how you can set up Renovate so it's useful but not annoying, do selective updates for different dependencies, centralized configuration for all your projects, but use the Renovate app via GitHub Actions.
Thank you for the introduction. Yes, everybody's favorite pastime after going to the dentist, maintaining dependencies. But it can be better. But I don't promise you that if you follow my advice, you won't want to cut down your dependencies a lot, because you will see how many you have. But before that, I'm Dr. Lewski, co-founder and managing director of Renovate. We are doing a lot of Orchid Core stuff, as my colleague Mark has told yesterday. Here are my socials and our company website if you would like to check out this in more details. But now let's talk about your app. And well, your app has dependencies, as you may know. This is Orchid Core specifically, and as you can see, Orchid Core has about 30,000 dependencies. This is a screenshot from the Insights tab of the GitHub page of Orchid Core. You can also check out for your own projects. You can also see that the top dependencies here have that red marker, meaning that they have critical vulnerabilities. You don't have to panic. They're actually development type dependencies, which makes it slightly better. But still, this kind of brings in the point that dependencies go out of date, they can get vulnerabilities. Long story short, you have to update them, and your app has a lot of them. So, sorry to break it to you, and updating them is not the most fun, because you have that many. Chiefly, the first task is to remember keeping them up to date, so you have to consciously do that all the time, pretty much continuously, like every week, every month at least. So, it would have been great not to do that. It's a very sad state that your app has all of these dependencies. But let's turn it from upside down with Renovate. Renovate, I'm endorsing it because it's a great tool, but I don't have anything to do with them. Just to be clear, it's a tool to keep all of these dependencies up to date automatically. And I'm talking about all the dependencies. So, of course, NuGet and npm packages, but not just those. Also, GitHub action references, Python dependencies. Orchid Core actually has Python dependencies for building the documentation side. And anything else. It's like 100 different package managers and whatever it can update. Everything is included. There's a lot of configuration, of course. It's sometimes quite hard, actually. There's documentation about everything, but if you want to do something that's quite complicated, it won't necessarily have you. But I will give you a couple of starting tips. It's also free and open source, by the way, and we use it in Orchid Core as well. For about 2.5 years or so, we actually switched over from Dependabot. Dependabot you may have heard of as well. It's a similar service built into GitHub, but it wasn't working for Orchid Core. Orchid Core had too many dependencies for Dependabot. It was just failing. So that was triggered to actually find something else. Now, how you start with Renovate, what I will also show you in a minute, is first check out the docs or the project homepage, which includes some docs and links to the other docs. And secondly, you have to decide on how to host it. I will go into details, but there are two basic options. You can use a GitHub app, which will run everything, or you can run it as part of GitHub Actions workflows. And then you have to actually edit the project and configure it, set it up A to Z. So let's actually see that in action. I'm not going to the browser, and hopefully nothing will break there. Yes, okay. So this is the Renovate homepage, our Renovate project homepage. as mentioned, this is my recommended starting point for you here. The first question, ways to run Renovate, touches on that GitHub app or GitHub Actions question. Not GitHub Actions, actually, they call it self-hosted. Renovate, in the end, is a CLI tool. So you can run it locally. You can run it on a virtual machine. You can run it on GitLab as well. But I will just talk about GitHub Actions for now. And here's the docs with everything that's available out of the box. I will use this demo project that I have set up here. This is a very basic project. Pretty much the point is that there's a single CSproj file with a couple of dependencies, and there are two things I've done that I won't show you here, but are important. First of all, I added the Renovate GitHub app to the Lombik organization. I can't show you that because I've done that 1.5 years ago. And secondly, I allowed Renovate to access this repository. These two are only necessary if you use the GitHub app, but everything goes through a wizard, so that's not something that you have to consciously do. And after that, Renovate opened an onboarding pull request, which is here. So when you first add Renovate to a repository, it will open such a pull request. And as you can see, first of all, it detected that we have dependencies in this file, in the single CSproj file. It has a summary of all the configuration it will use. It's long, but this is basically the default. We haven't configured anything, so this is just the default. And most importantly, here is what Renovate will do. You see that it detected four package references. These are the usual package references you would have in an object core module or theme. And it wants to update all of them to 2.2.1. This is because I actually added them at 2.2.0. And secondly, it also has an update for this project called Lombik.help libraries, which is very useful, a Lombik project, useful library functionality. I did that in an outdated version to this project as well. There's also something linked from here. They call it the repository job log, but in other places, this whole thing here is called the dependency dashboard. This is part of the Renovate GitHub app. So this runs on Mann's servers. Mann is the company behind Renovate. They also wanted to rebrand it as Manned, like the Manned app instead of Renovate app. That didn't happen in the end. But they host this where you can see, first of all, a log of where Renovate has run, and more importantly, what we don't see here yet, because it's not done yet, the available updates that Renovate has for us. So, to get there, we need to first configure Renovate. So I will do that next. I have the repository checked out here, and specifically, I have it checked out on this Renovate/configure branch. So this is what Renovate opened. By default, Renovate opens its pull requests and pushes its commits to Renovate/branches. And if I open that repository here, it actually added a Renovate.json file by default. Renovate keeps its configuration in the repository, which is quite handy, in such JSON files. And as you can see, it pretty much contains this section of this extends config recommended. This is basically telling Renovate that use the recommended config. This extends keyword is kind of an inheritance, or you can pull in other configuration files and start from there. Config recommended is a built-in one. So this is a good default, but we definitely won't use this. Instead, I will just delete this, and I will use a different file that I prepared for this demo here, which has a couple of important defaults. And this is pretty much what I recommend you to do, or start with Renovate. By the way, this will be up after the demo, so you can check out the repository that I'm using for it. And first of all, this is a JSON5 file. Now, if you are not aware, JSON file is much better than JSON since it's 5. It's it extends the JSON schema or rules a little bit. Most importantly, it can contain comments. What's quite useful for Renovate config files to explain that what the heck is happening here. And this config file FU has a couple of more configurations that it extends. Again, these are built into Renovate. It also extends the recommended configuration and enables vulnerability alerts. This means that if there's a vulnerability in a package, it will open a pull request to update it as soon as possible. And secondly, it also pins all kinds of other dependencies that can be pinned to show hashes, to do's instead of referring to versions. For example, with GitHub Actions, you can reference a third-party GitHub action by a tag, a git tag pretty much, but tags can be moved, so your dependencies can change without you changing the references. Pinning them with digests, hashes, fixes them. Secondly, here we add a couple of labels to those pull requests that Renovate opens, just to be able to better distinguish between such automated pull requests and pull requests by people. Then I enabled config migration here, which means that if the migration schema updates, Renovate changes something in the migration schema, Renovate itself will update your configuration file, which is kind of a nice to have feature. Secondly, I enabled the dependency dashboard here. That means that some functionality, which is available in the browser here, will be also available in form of a GitHub issue. Now, this is useful if you want non-administrator people to be able to manage that as well, because by default, this here is only accessible by administrators, while as issues are accessible for everyone with read access to the repository. Not sure why the projector is being funny. And secondly, most important things, you will need these in every project of yours where you use Renovate, these two package rules here. First package rule, grouping. So remember that we had 4 Orchard core packages, and Renovate wants to update all 4 of them. So far so good, but it would open 4 individual pull requests. And that's not kind of convenient. We don't want, for a single Orchard core update, we don't want to have pull requests for every single package, because we want to update all of them. And grouping is about fixing that. So with grouping, those pull requests will be grouped together. So in this case, every package whose name matches Orchard core dot will be in a single group. Pretty much every Orchard core package. So that's the most important config for every project. And the second most important config that I will show you here is disabling updates for certain packages. Sometimes you just want to keep certain packages up to date manually because you consciously want to keep an outdated version because there are breaking changes and you want to postpone dealing with that, or for whatever reason. This is how you can disable it. Pretty much have a group again. This time we are matching lombig dot, and then enabled false. And 2 other configs which are important, which you have to override because the default I don't think is the best one for our use cases, is PR hourly limit 0. By default, Renovate will open just 2 pull requests per hour because it's conscious about not using too much resources from your CI platform and not opening too many pull requests for people to review. I think usually you can pull that limit down to 0, which means no limit. Because if you are using GitHub, the GitHub Actions, CI running in GitHub Actions, you have a very large scalability tool. There are no real worries there. And secondly, having pull requests like drip feeded, I think is worse than having them at a given schedule open all at once. And speaking of schedule, we have a schedule here. Renovate operates in a little bit curious way when it comes to schedule. Basically, the idea there is that it runs periodically. And in the Renovate app, we are not really told when that period is. I would guess it's like every hour or so, but we can't affect that. What we can affect is with the schedule configuration, when it will actually deal with our repository. So what I told is here with this cron expression that in the morning of every Sunday, that's when it should deal with our dependencies. Regardless, even if it runs on Monday evening, it shouldn't do anything, just Sunday morning. And we have an interval here, not like a set time, but because we have to match when Renovate is randomly running. So we need to have a large enough time interval here so we can make sure that Renovate will wake up for sure in this time interval. And I figure that 7 hours is good enough or large enough. So with this config file now in place, I will commit this and see what Renovate will tell us under pull request. After I commit it, Renovate will pick up this change quite quickly, as usual in a couple of seconds. And as you just missed, because the projector was switching, this pending line here switched to running. So now its process is on a new config file, and once that happens, we'll be able to check out the pull request with the updated dry run results. Let's try it. In the meantime, it has completed. It's like I'm doing tricks on you, always not showing what's happening behind the scenes, like a magician, but I can assure you that's not the case. So we are back in under a pull request, it was updated, GitHub reloads it in this case, and you see that under what we expect, we actually now have a single item, and there's no long.helpful arrays anymore, we disabled it, and there's this single orchard core one, with these 4 dependencies listed here. So that grouping also worked. Now great. The next step for us could be to merge this pull request, and let's see how Renovate opens the update pull request. And I won't actually do that. Because this is a good time to switch over a different way to run Renovate and see how it will handle the rest. So far I've shown you the GitHub app, which is this one, but let's switch over to using Renovate from GitHub Actions. So as I told you about GitHub Actions workflows, reusable workflows that I recommend you check out for your projects. Again, we'll use one of these workflows. So let me go back to the VS Code again, and in this GitHub workflows folder, I have a workflow prepared here. So let me rename it to YAML, so it will be actually active. And what it does, it has some triggers. It can be triggered manually on a click of a button. It's also triggered every Sunday morning. And certainly, it also triggers on pushes to the Renovate config file. So if you change the config file, it should run, and pretty much that's it. And within the workflow, we see that it references one of our reusable workflows. You have to supply one configuration value, this checkout token. So the Renovate opens pull request, pushes commits. It needs write access to the repository. You need to pass in a so-called personal access token here that can do that. How to create the personal access token is a Renovate specific thing. Their documentation that how to start section explains that. You just have to pass it to this workflow as well. So let me push this to, commit and push this to. And once that's done, I will merge the pull request and we'll see how the workflow runs. Alright, and now let's merge the pull request. Once GitHub is happy with it, config merge. Alright, and now let's check out what's under actions here. So again, just as yesterday, we are under the actions tab. We have this new workflow running here, and it will take a couple of seconds. This is a bit slower than the GitHub app. I would think because this starts with a blank environment. It has to install Renovate or pull in the Docker image of Renovate and run that. Whereas I would imagine that Renovate, when it runs on their own infrastructure, they have these images prepared. But it's still something like less than a minute. While it's running, by the way, in the workflow logs, you can see the output of Renovate, which is currently initializing tools, whatever that means. And if you are using the GitHub app, you also have an output log here. If you open these job logs, you have debug logs here. Hopefully, you will never need to look at this, but if something is not working with Renovate, you will need to. I've also done it a few times. Unfortunately, it's not necessary, but by and large, Renovate just works. And now, Renovate, but the GitHub action this time, opens this pull request. So let's check out what's under the pull request. You see that it has dependencies and Renovate labels here, just as configured. And within the pull request, you see an overview of what changed. Pretty much in the list of packages and the list of from and to versions. In most cases, below this, it will also display details about the versions. I'm not sure actually why it's not displaying it in this case, because it pulls in like the GitHub release details. And if you check out the changed files, I haven't showed you the CS project before, because it's just a CS project that contains these references, really nothing else. You see, it just changed the version numbers. So now, we could merge this. But before that, let me also show you under the GitHub app how the same thing looks like there. Because now we also have this Renovate update section updated here. With an item for this object for update. So both of these approaches with the GitHub app and with the GitHub Actions workflow were pretty much the same, but there are a couple of key differences. Let me show you that. Oh, and by the way, before that, here's the docs about the workflow that I've just used. I will also share a link to that. Everything is really written here. We need to go into details. The gist of it, I've already told you. And here are the differences between these two approaches, because both the GitHub app and both the GitHub Actions workflow are really, in effect, the same, but there are a couple of differences. Both of them are free, but with GitHub Actions, you need to run the Renovate CLI. So if you are in a public repository, that will be still free. If you are in a private repository, it will cost you money. How much? It depends on how you use GitHub Actions. There are free minutes available as well, but usually it will cost something. Renovate itself is free and open source in your case. If you are using the Renovate app though, then at least in theory, Ment has access to your code. The company behind Renovate has access to your code since they are fetching it to their servers. Now, I don't think there are any reason not to trust them. It's a great company, but still, perhaps something that your policies would prevent. Whereas with GitHub Actions, nothing leaves GitHub. Both are fairly easy to set up, as I've shown you. Perhaps the GitHub Actions one is a little bit more complicated. The difference between the two is though that blue dashboard of the Ment app can only be accessed by administrators, whereas if you let Renovate create an issue for the dependency dashboard, that can be accessed by anyone with read access to the repository. And finally, that was pretty much it. And also, by the way, who can set it up is also a little bit different. The Ment GitHub app can only be set up by administrators. But this is like a one-time thing, so probably that doesn't matter too much. Now this was a toy example with Renovate with a tiny repository. Let's see something bigger, like Ocean Core. So Ocean Core uses the GitHub app. There's no huge reason behind it. That was when I personally was starting with Renovate as well, and this approach seemed easier. And as you can see here, we also have a single update waiting to be merged. Actually, if we open this is an already open pull request that we have here for well, updating some minor dependencies, which are not so minor because the build is red. So actually, I opened a pull request like 2 days ago to fix these. We also have a couple of other updates that are awaiting Sunday when these pull requests will be updated. These pull requests will be opened as well. And you may notice that we have an update of the monorepo to v10 here. .NET 10 is out. This is showing up here as well. Although probably we will merge that .NET 10 update pull request before that, and then this will go away. And finally, at the bottom, we also have a very long list of all of these dependencies that Renovate has seen in the repository. You see npm dependencies first, and then we have a long list below, still npm dependencies, now NuGet dependencies. It's quite large. If you check out the configuration file for Ocean Core, it's also a lot more complicated. For example, here's a cool thing that you might want to use called auto-merge. Now, when you first start working with Renovate, it seems very cool because, hey, somebody's or something is doing the dependency updates for me now. That's awesome. I don't have to care about that. The second thing you will think about after a couple of weeks is that this is annoying. I'm getting notifications about new pull requests all the time. Now, first of all, I recommend you to schedule them so you don't get those drip fed just like once a week or once a month. Secondly, you can let certain updates be auto-merged. That means that if you have a robust CI workflow with tests, where you can say that, okay, if this is green, then I trust that for patch updates, it will be fine. Nobody has to review it. This auto-merge can help with that, because with this, you will let Renovate just merge the pull request without reviews. There's a lot more in the Ocean Core configuration file. As you can see, it's documented, a lot of comments. I recommend you to check it out if you go into the Renovate to get some inspiration. Also, you can centralize Renovate configuration if you have more repositories. So I've shown you just a single repo, every config is in a single file, easy. But if you have multiple repositories, because you are like a company, you don't need to have the same config in each and every repository. You can, I've shown you this extends keyword, you can centralize these configs and then extend them. This is what we do in Lombik as well, in this repository. For example, we have a default Renovate configuration here, which is for every project of ours. And this actually contains most of the basic configuration that I've shown you in that single file, like with the basic extents and the labels and whatnot. But these are for really every single project, whether it's .NET, whether it uses Ocean Core or not, every project. And we have a default .NET config file, which is for every .NET project, and it extends the default one. So we can have such a hierarchy of configuration files. We have a lot more for Ocean Core projects, for modules, for themes, for all solutions. You can kind of have layers and layers of such configuration files. So the good news is that Renovate will take care of your dependencies. What we are only news is that you still have to adapt your codes to whatever changes the dependencies bring. If there are breaking changes, you still have to do something. The one cool thing, by the way, Renovate does is not just updates, but it can also swap out dependencies. If one package is deprecated and the community says that, okay, this package takes over, it can automatically change over to that. There are a couple of other tricks, but by and large, you are still on your own when it comes to adapting your code. So that was Renovate in a nutshell. Here are the links that I recommend you to check out, and thank you very much.
Questions? Comments?
The comments were all in the config file.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.